So we will call the meeting to order for Monday, January 30th. Entertain a motion to accept the agenda as may be amended.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the only real item is the TIF ballot article public hearing. Are we going to turn it to Stephanie at this point?
Sure, if you, make me a host, I'll go ahead and share my screen and then,
And she should introduce herself for the people that don't
and
know
then
who she
Chris
is.
will,
Yeah, I'll introduce the
Sorry.
Killington Forward concept.
Okay.
Cancel McGill on the right-hand side. It says, once removed, McGill 50 will not be able to rejoin the meeting.
No, I gotta cancel that because the thing keeps moving while I'm trying to hit the buttons. Trying to give her the hosting.
Well, forget about getting anyone else in, just give her the host.
Yeah.
We can do that after.
We can let him in while
Well, no,
she's
no, it's not
talking.
about letting him in. Every time somebody comes, it shifts it
So
down.
Steve Farner, you have your hand up, what's going on?
I was just wondering if you're trying to get Chris into the picture.
Still not in it. That's
We moved
okay.
the table as far as the cord will let us,
That was the intent, Steve. Keep me out of it.
And it's-
so.
They have to get us a wide-angle
Move
camera.
to
if they
the
want
other side
everybody.
of Jeff, of,
Well, Steve, you're not gonna see everyone until he speaks, because they got this camera that moves when someone speaks.
okay, thank you.
We can get a photo shot of you and just put you at the front of the table.
Stick figure.
Yeah. The railroad crossing across you.
okay.
It's yours, Stephanie.
It's all yours.
Okay, Chris, you can start it
Sure.
off.
All right. Do I have a slide, Stephanie?
Yes, it's moving.
Come on. There we go.
Okay.
So addressing this tonight as part of this, the ballot that they'll be appearing come March, we named this project Killington Forward for a number of reasons. First was bringing everything together so that we could create jobs within the Killington area. We needed this village that we've all heard about since I came to town. Press Smith's original thought and concept way back. The ability to finally get that off the ground. We also wanted to address other needs we had too. Workforce housing, desperately needed in this area now. So we felt that there would be a chance for that. We felt that, as we know, we have a clean water issue in this town. And it's becoming a greater and greater problem for everybody here in Killington. And there's another chance for us to build a truly safe Killington Road with accessibility for walking paths and bike paths as we move down the road. Years ago when I first came here, we didn't even have a sidewalk. And now we still don't even really have a complete streetscape. So this gives us the ability to have that at all. So we brought it all under one umbrella, calling it Killington Forward as we named the project. So when you hear it, it goes in conjunction with the TIF. So don't forget, it's all in one together as we move forward. How's that, Stephanie?
Great. Yeah, I think that's a great big picture. There's a lot of history here, and it's important to recognize that. So thank you, Chris, and thank you, Select Board, for hearing this and taking this up tonight. My name is Stephanie Clark. I'm with White & Burke Real Estate Advisors and have been consulting to the town for now a couple of years as we have been putting together various elements of this plan relative to the financing, the planning, the negotiations, everything we can do to get this going. So tonight we're going to speak about the
If I do this, it's gonna.
scope of the whole Killington Forward project. We're also going to be talking about the phase one project, the scope of phase one itself. And we're also going to be talking about the funding because that is what's coming up on the ballot item on town meeting day.
So Stephanie,
Yeah,
I'd like to throw in that it's article number 5.
yep,
Okay.
that's a slide, but
That's a
yep,
slide.
it
Let's
is.
get it out there now.
Yep, good point. So what is Killington Forward and what is included in that? So, can you guys see my mouse? I don't
Yes.
remember.
Yes, we
if it
can.
shows. Okay, great. never remember if that shows when you've got a PowerPoint up. So Killington Forward includes the water project and the road project, essentially. It is broken out into phases, and this will be multi-year phases. So if to orient you, north is at the top of the screen. That is the bottom of Killington Road. Here's Killington, where Killington Road and Route 4 meet. And up here is the base of the mountain at the bottom of the page. So we have to orient things north-south, but it can be a little bit confusing sometimes. So the water project starts here down on Route 4, and the water is brought up all the way up to here, and is then distributed, flows down and transmitted down into what will be the future village, Six Peaks Village, down over to Killington Road, down to Ravine Road, and then continues to go all the way down Killington Road to the bottom of Killington Road. That is the water project. We have broken it out into phases, which is what all of these different colors are. Phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 to be completed over several years. The road project is a complete package road reconstruction that includes everything from multimodal to multimodal access to improved safety, improved bike ped, as well as bus pull-offs. And that starts, I'm going the opposite direction this time, that starts at the bottom with a small phase here called the beginning of Killington Road. We have a name for it called Phase 1B. That's here. It's from Route 4 to Anthony Way. And then the road improvements continue to come up. However, Phase 1 starts again up at the top of the hill. And that includes starting here at where this teal line is and coming up in the village area, and includes a roundabout where Killington Road and East Mountain Road meet. So we'll get into a little bit more of that later, but that's the overall picture. There's notes on this map that have to do with the funding streams. Again, we can answer questions as needed, but we'll get into how this is funded with TIF in just a moment. So what is included in Phase 1 is what I showed before, is the water system up the mountain and down to Ravine Road. It includes the road improvements from Route 4 to Anthony Way and in the village. And the result is going to be approximately 180 new housing units and square footage of commercial at Six Peaks Village. This has been the first phase of the Six Peaks project, been planned for a very long time, and this will be only possible with the town's creation of this water system and the road improvements. This will also begin the access for properties on Killington Road to municipal water by bringing it to Ravine Road. So just what you see here in the dark blue and the teal is what we're asking for to be put on the ballot tonight, which is Phase 1. So we wanted to talk a little bit about timing. That's an important question. The water project is beginning this June, breaking ground. The road project will start with the piece down at Route 4 to Anthony Way this year, and next year the rest of the road improvements up and down Killington Road, in the village, that rest of Killington Road connecting over to East Mountain Road will happen in 2024. The Six Peaks construction will begin in 2023. The water completion, we expect that to end in 2024, early 2025. That's what gets it to Ravine Road. So a big question is, how is this funded? And how does it not affect the tax rate? That is because of the packaging that we're doing for this project that is very complicated, but essentially we have two sources of money that have been given to the town. You might have seen the articles in the Mountain Times, the ARPA grant for $2.3 million and a $3.6 emerging contaminants forgivable loan, which are both water sources of funding for the water project that do not need to be repaid. So those are not loans or bonds that we need to cover. What we are coming to the select board, what the select board is putting on the ballot is going to be $47 million of debt, which is what is backed by TIF. What is TIF? TIF is tax increment financing. It is a financing mechanism for municipalities Essentially, a municipality can create infrastructure, take out the debt to build the infrastructure, and the resulting tax increment, the new taxes that are generated by the new development, then go to pay down the debt service. So it creates this cycle of being able to take care of itself within the TIF district. So it does not increase the tax rate. It is the incremental new taxes from any new property development within the district that pays down that bonded debt service, that 47 million that we talked about. So this ballot item, Article 5, it asks for voter permission to incur debt up to 47 million. Now, the 47 million is the max. We are continuing to search for other sources of funding. We are looking to secure other grants. Most recently, we had a hearing that we had a positive vote on. It has not been made official, but for another $1 million, which we're very excited about. And we will continue to be looking for other sources of funding to bring down how much we will actually incur in debt. But that debt will not be incurred all at the same time. It is going to be spent over the next 2 years. And so we hope we will be able to bring that number down even further.
Stephanie,
so at this time, yeah?
Could you just describe where the district of the TIF is so that that's clear?
Yes.
That
Good question. Let me go back to the map. I think that's going to be the easiest.
Yep.
So in this map, which I'll get up bigger, what you see in the yellow shaded area, which can sometimes be a little hard to tell, but it's meant to be a backdrop, that's the TIF district. It's restricted to properties owned by SP Land Company and the resort currently. It's located at the top of the road at the base of the mountain, and encompasses not all of the property owned by SP Land and the resort, but it does, the properties that are all within the district are owned by those two entities.
Can you go back so we can see who's on the screen now? Okay, and so before we get into questions, the TIF itself, there was a large amount of work done between this board. The developer who is on here, Michael Snade, I think he's fifth row on the and fourth down. Crossword, whatever that game was.
Matters.
Whatever. But we worked with them, many meetings that we went to, that people were like in the beginning saying, why is the select board having all these emergency meetings or executive sessions, and what's going on in there? And, we can't tell you what was going on in there at the time because things were going back and forth. But what I can tell you is that we came out with a development agreement, and in the development agreement, at one point of this game here, it makes the developer will guarantee the minimum tax, which meaning the minimum bond payment that you showed for the $47 million, or whatever comes off of there in the grants that we get. So this developer believes in this project, but needs this work done, and we also need the water and the road work done ourselves. And they believe in it so much that they will allow us, those folks out there like, well, what happens if nothing happens up there, if it's not on time? They will allow us to raise their property value to equal the amount of money to be taxed to pay the bond. It's taken out, folks. When we went into this as a board, we promised in the beginning we would minimize the tax towards all the other townspeople in town. We would make this so it was a fair deal for both sides. Michael's here, he believes in it, we believe in it, and so I just want to make sure that was put out there, that when we say it's not going to raise your taxes, we have a developer here that is a very large company. I think I've heard Mike Salamano say they're actually bigger than Powder, but this is a solid company, and they're making a guarantee to us that if you're worried about the Burlington where they dug a hole or they did whatever, this company is for real. It's not some little tiny developer that was up there, and they're guaranteeing to make the payments for us to raise the property value. So I think Art the Skunk He's the one that put the name on him in the newspaper, right, Polly? He called himself the skunk in my garden. He came out after seeing the development agreement and said it was a very good agreement. So I've had enough there.
The agreement has been approved by the state.
Well, also, if you want to
First
get
phase of
further
it.
into it, this is the first TIF, unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately for us, that usually when you go through VEPSI, which is the Vermont Economic Progress Council, they normally have their own in-house folks that look over the numbers and everything, but for some reason, that person retired or whatever. This program and this whole document went through Jeff Carr's group. And if you look up Jeff Carr, you will see that he is Phil Scott's person that does the whole state's numbers. And he just came out with a finding on the way the state of Vermont taxes. Twice a year, he puts out a report for Phil Scott. I mean, we got top people looking at this agreement. So.
Stephanie, if we could also just go through the percentages of the increase that is retained by us. I think that's important as
It's a
we,
good question. Yeah, so TIF works, one of the advantages of TIF is that you can retain not just the municipal tax increment, the new taxes from the municipality, but also the incremental new taxes that are state taxes, and up to 70%. So we can retain 70% of the new property taxes that are flowing off of the development, the new development, that would otherwise go to the state, and 85% of what would go to the general fund. Mm-hmm. Now, when I say that, one of the things to keep in mind is, those taxes wouldn't exist but for doing the improvement. So it's not anything, where the money goes currently continues to go in that direction, continues to flow. The grand list, it flows to the general fund and it flows to the state as it does today. But anything new within that yellow area that I showed over the next 20 years will then go to this TIF fund, which will help pay down that debt.
Then I want to pick up off of that. So since I sit on the school board, my last 6 weeks, Jennifer, 12 years ago, she put me on it. If you understand the education tax, one of the arguments in Killington when we wanted to move New Hampshire was we were sending more money than we were receiving back here. Currently, we are sending $12 million to the state of Vermont, and we get about $2.5 million back. So any increase in any value, we're still only going to get $2.5 million back. This project here, we would, all this money, if we didn't do this through a TIF or whatever, all this money would be going to the education. And now we're getting to use 70% of this fund to take care of a project in this town that's going to get us affordable housing. It's going to get us water up and down the road that we need. And, you know, we don't own the water, we need it. That's my main two topics of getting affordable housing, market rate housing in here, and water up and down the Killington Road. And to do this, we've had to make a development agreement, once again, with Great Gulf, and they're going to allow us to take over the water system so we can get it up there and down. So, I think we can open the questions now.
Is there anyone that's here?
So Steve Feiner, do you still have your hand up from before or for a new question? Because you've been waiting patiently.
You
This
still
is
have
a
your
new
hand
one.
up.
Okay.
My question is, could we get a better understanding of what's happening at the bottom of the access road in Route 4? Development, oh, there we go, got a rescue call.
Well, in case anybody else wants the answer to Steve's question while he leaves, so you can fill him in later on, so I don't. And it's recorded so he can listen to it. So we're going from Anthony Way down to the bottom of Route 4. We all know, and probably everybody has experience, when sometimes on an icy day, you come down that section there, and there's only like a 5-foot or a 6-foot landing at the bottom. So if you hit your brakes, you slide through Route 4. Lucky enough, you try to go a right-hand turn so you don't get into traffic or whatever. We are taking 10 feet out of that area.
12.
In some places more than that.
More
It's
than
like
that.
12, 13.
So we're going to have a landing space of probably,
The goal was to get a 50-foot landing area, and basically the slope will be from that 50 feet to Anthony Way as a constant slope.
right.
So we'll go from up to 15 or 18% grade down to a consistent 10, so it'll be a much more reasonable slope.
So we'll have 50 feet of actually come down, you'll have 50 feet to slide, okay? Which we all should be able to stop at that point. But instead of having an 18 degree slope coming down, we're knocking it down to around 10%. So it's going to make that area a lot safer. We're also talking a sidewalk on the Killington ski shack, shop, whatever you want to call it these days. We're going to have a sidewalk from just beyond or right around the ski shack or whatever. We're working with the resort for an easement, so the walkway will come from way up at the top, come all the ways down, and then the walkway will turn into the parking area there, and we'll have like a bike path or pedestrian path there coming in. We will be burying a dry pipe of water, a dry pipe for water, not of water, but a dry pipe for water, because when we come from Ravine Road, then the next year after that's done, we're going to take from Ravine Road down to Dean Hill Road, and then when we go from Dean Hill Road, we will hit down to that section there. So while we're digging up that area to fix that, because the board and the town feels that's a dangerous section or whatever, we'll already have the pipe in there to hit that. And then after that, the water will turn left onto Route 4, and we'll get to the base of the pass going up or whatever. You know, one of the other items that we have on our ballot here is purchasing the post office for the town hall, so we'd like to get the water over there also and run it that way. So that answers, Steve, you're back. Did you hear all that?
I'm gonna go in a little bit.
Okay.
But thank you, that helps a lot.
Okay.
Is there thought to, and this would have to be completely out of the phases, I'm sure, to continue this walkway around to the deli and the post office?
Well, that's what I was getting at, that it would go through the ski shop area, and then if anybody that ever worked in the ski shop when it was lodging over there, they used to walk, because there's a path between from the bike shop over to the deli, and then we will have the post office. So that is there. And one of the other big things, since all the firemen left except for Steve, is that this water project will be putting fire hydrants, and Debbie's here, but this will be putting fire hydrants up and down the road, which is a big need in this town, and along East Mountain Road. They won't have to find all those dry hydrants or whatever. If they have to get to Sunrise, they can come over to East Mountain Road, pump up there, and then get back over. Or the same thing, you know, down, if they're on Route 4 and they gotta get over towards the golf course, they can fill up there instead of making it all the ways up here or whatever. Because every minute means something different, means big for somebody's life or whatever, or a house. Is that good, Steve, for you?
Thank you, that was very helpful.
Thank you. So now we'll go, Debbie, well, let's just do everybody on the screen first.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Is it Debbie?
Debbie, you got your hand up?
And we're gonna have to, I know your last name, but you're gonna have to say your last name so the minute taker can put it down.
Sure, it's Debbie LeBlond, Leblond.
Okay.
My question has to do with how is the town going to keep good records of all the spending? And I'm referring to the article I read last week about town of Burlington, where a lot of their funding for the TIP wasn't approved because of the record keeping. Is the town hiring another person?
Well, let's stop. Burlington was approved. And it was approved, I believe, in 1986 or 1989. Stephanie can fill in the right one. It was prior to the education tax coming in, because we all know that in 1997 or 1998. TIF was the first one there. It was brand new. I read on Facebook when the skunk put it up on the whatever, Killington or voters online or whatever. You know, this town, Chris, Steve, myself, Chet, if you look at the budget, we have Mark, who has been hired on, who is our finance manager at this time. We have in our budget for another person to come in for this project. You know, I don't really like being said that we're not as professional as them. I would like to flip it the other way. We've put a lot of work into this. We know what issues were there at Burlington, and we've made all the corrections. And we don't pay bills double ever. So, I mean, that was part of the issues up there. They took one bill and paid it twice for $1.8 million worth. This town doesn't do that. I would hope most of you folks living here for 20 or 30 years or more take pride in the people down at the office and understand that they're doing their job and make sure the bills are paid correctly.
Okay, and I think what I heard is that you do have a budget for another person. And I think that was the point of the article I read, is that there wasn't good record keeping as to what was part of the TIF funding and what was not. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we know that that's going to be taken care of.
Well,
I'd like to jump into that.
Go ahead, Steph.
Okay, thank you.
And Debbie, you hit on that that's exactly right. That is the biggest issue there. You know, we're familiar with the TIFs around the state, and as long as this town, and we have the advantage of having the, you know, starting fresh now with a clear system to document all the costs attributable to TIF district, both capital and operating, and that they're segregated from our other costs, other town costs. And as Jim mentioned, that district was started in 1996 is the year, Jim.
Okay.
And that was before there was a statewide education tax. It's a much more complicated district. So we have the advantage of a lot of lessons learned by other districts over time, and the way it's set up now is a much simpler single set of rules. So that helps as well.
And plus, we're still subject to state auditors coming in and inspecting everything that we have on a regular basis as well.
And doing our own annual audit.
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. I was at the K1 opening the other day, and there's a person, Jerry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Marshallot. And she's in this type of business or whatever down in Florida, and she has a condo or a house up here. And, you know, I asked Jerry to show up on this meeting because she is here 6 months out of the year with her husband. And she started telling me how this project is so much different than the project that she read up in Burlington because this is infrastructure. Can you hit on that, Jerry? You got to unmute. You got to unmute. You have to hit unmute. You're talking, but
You can hear me.
now we
Can
can.
you hear me?
Yes.
Well, being a CPA accountant, I can tell you that what I read about Burlington is basically, it is a record-keeping issue. So, I mean, you can't lose invoices. You have to submit to get the funding. So, you know, you have a budget and you're paying against it, you're keeping your records, you're being audited. There's no excuse for what happened up there. There's just poor record keeping. I guess it's an old, long project and people came and went, but there's absolutely no excuse for it. If you had a lender, you would have to submit every invoice you're pulling for a draw. And they keep a record of it, you keep a record of it. You know what you financed and you know what you've paid and you keep those records. So, hopefully this is not gonna happen here. As I said, lessons learned. But I am not a voting resident, but I am a second home and I am here 6 months. And I've spent most of my accounting career working in real estate investment and development, both in Connecticut and Florida. Worked on some very large projects. And, when I look at this, I just say to myself, based on my experience, There is no way Killington is going to be able to grow and improve unless they put this infrastructure, provide the infrastructure. A developer is not gonna do it at that scale. They might do it at a smaller scale, but they're not gonna let anybody hook into that unless they get reimbursed for it. This is way too large. It's a public works project. It needs to be done. You know, nobody can say anything bad about putting clean water and a safer road. All of that is gonna be the foundation. Once it gets done and the resort gets started up there and you're able to bring this down later, it's gonna be the foundation for everything else on the road. It's going to be the foundation to be able to do this workplace and affordable housing. If it's not there, it's never gonna get done. This is probably, from what I can tell from the history here, this is just delayed stuff that should have been, deferred stuff that should have probably been put in place or started, you know, many years ago. Considering how big this town is and how many houses are, it's kind of surprising, the issues with the water. And I can tell you from my own experience, because I put the sewer line up the road where I built my house, I would say there's probably a lot of failed septic systems in this town that, you know, going forward as we go and we make all these improvements would be helpful to, you know, benefit to everybody here if we can get this infrastructure here. So, you know, my hope is that it's approved, it gets on the ballot, because I think it's critical to all the citizens, all the workforce, the businesses, the visitors. It's critical to their future prosperity and to our health too, to have a good water supply. So, you know, I have been following it. I'm very interested in a lot of it. I'm very familiar with it because I've done it all my career. Not so much working with the town like this to bring a big project, but certainly working on large developments where there's impacts on roads and stormwater and sewer and all that stuff. So it's all very familiar to me, and I know you're not going to get anything done and help everybody else down the road and all the citizens until we get this first, you know, get this first part of it going. So thanks for letting me talk about that, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have questions from in here. Could you come back?
So,
You had to mention your name so that.
John Curtis,
Okay.
and I know that we gave out more dictionaries to the third graders from the Rotary this year than ever had, by like double. So my question is, 180 new houses up at the top of the hill, lots of more people in town due to COVID, with kids. Does this bump the school? Do we have to do something to the school here now that we've got 108 houses worth of kids coming into town too? Has that been looked at?
Well, the school has enough room, and sitting on the school board, like I said, for another 2 months or whatever, till March 7th, when somebody else replaces me, because I'm not running, so don't write my name in. But I'm the chair of Buildings and Grounds. I'm not leaving Killington Elementary School alone. Jennifer has been gone now for a few years. She has not let Killington Elementary School go. If you go back to the screen that showed Killington Road, you would see a different color, purple, that kind of shot off by Casey's Caboose, which is running water to the school, okay? And I've already put in plans for if we did have an increase with more students than that the building could take. But the building can handle about another 20 people right now, kids in there. 150 or whatever. Most of these houses, John, are going to be second family homes. So if we have an increase of 20, it's there. If we have an increase of another 80 kids, okay, I already have plans for an addition onto the building, and it will work, okay? And the more kids that you get into school, the more tax dollars we will get from the state of Vermont. So thanks for throwing a question at me that I wasn't prepared for.
I think somebody should look at it.
We have, and it's there. I mean, the best thing that could happen to this town is having more kids in it. I think we'll bring down the average age, because I'm gonna be 62 in February. You know, it would be really nice.
And the reason an addition will work is because the classrooms have temporary walls dividing them. So a classroom size could be changed in about 3 hours, just by taking all the books and bookcases and sliding the wall.
Additions.
Once there is an addition, I'm guessing on the back of the building, because there's room there, to where the classrooms could be reconfigured.
I also can, that, and if it
Yeah.
even got even worse, we can go up a floor on that one side over
Mhm.
there. So, this stuff has all been hit, you know, but it was a good question, but we're ready for it. I want to see growth.
Did you have your hand up?
But Steve had his hand up since the
Oh, I can't see
beginning.
him. Okay.
Yeah.
Steve Duchenne, one, you guys have done a great job, and I'm definitely gonna vote for you too. That being said, my worry from my point of view is, how soon are you gonna deal with the affordable housing? I mean, you're gonna be bringing people in here, and businesses are stretched heavily now with staffing. I don't know if you've had a chance to even do preliminary stuff on talking to a few people that might privately develop, how much it's gonna cost, whatever, because, I mean, the best laid plans, we're still waiting for the finish of the sidewalk. So I worry that all this is gonna be done, and you're still 5 or 10 years down the road wanting to do housing. So,
We're way past wanting.
okay.
We've already said we've identified, it has come out that some of these meetings that we going into emergency meetings, we have identified a piece of property, we've not coming out with what it is.
All right, sure.
We've already been talking to different people about it, and, you know, this is one of the things in the beginning, when I think it was 14 months ago, I think we started on TIF or whatever, and people were coming in and they were asking questions, and I said,
You were one of them.
I would really love to answer your questions, but currently I can't answer them because we're in discussions. So I'm a true believer, I'm probably more than you, that I want to have the market rate housing and affordable housing here.
Are you thinking?
Workforce,
in an
Steve,
optimistic
just so you
time-
understand, workforce housing can't occur without a public water source.
Oh, totally, and I think
And
that should be
is
done.
essential for us to
But I was
get
just
done before.
hoping that there was more than just, you know, hopeful
coming.
thoughts.
Why don't we wait a month
Yeah,
Oh,
wait a
cool, I mean,
minute.
that's great.
before voting time?
That's like I said, I'm voting for it anyways, I'm just,
Yeah.
I just curious about.
Yeah.
There will be answers coming very quickly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And-
We're
and,
working.
We have talked to potential affordable housing developers, and they did tell us what their requirements would be, so we're way down the road.
The number one thing, they're talking to us and they say, tell us when you know that you got the water project approved by the voters of the town of Killington. That's their answer. The minute we have sewer there. We have sewer. So that was the answer that you got, Lisa, correct, as the planner?
100% water and
You have sewer, we need water.
Jim, if I could just hop in to say that it's important to know too that, you know, this is, the water, provision of water down Killington Road opens up opportunities for redevelopment and additions to be done on any number of the parcels that go up and down Killington Road. So the addition of housing units above a commercial establishment, for example, that aren't possible today with an individual well system, that type of development can and will occur. We've seen this happen in multiple communities around the state. Once you fix that systemic problem, you unlock these other opportunities. So it will still be a few years away. I'm the conservative here, but just trying to say it's still a few years away. We still have to build the water system up, so it's not going to be overnight. But there will be, as it happens and as the water comes down the road, that opens up opportunity after opportunity.
And we've also reduced parking requirements and reduced setbacks in order.
Along the Killington Road.
Along
the
Killington
businesses.
Road in order to encourage this redevelopment once water is available.
And Stephanie says she's very conservative, and, I think Lyle Jepson is on here somewhere, and he keeps on saying, do you realize how fast the town of Killington has moved on this with getting this thing approved from she'll be the conservative one. We've already beat her estimate of getting this to a vote. All right?
Just your checks and balances, friends.
Yes. She's our Burlington checker to make sure we're not in that position.
I think you're
Yeah.
up now.
To add on to that question, I'm Bill Petrix from Killington. I gather from your answer that we don't know where this affordable housing will be, but it will be within obviously this water and sewer district here, right? It's not going to be any further than that.
Well, I'd like to correct that.
Oh.
You don't know where it is.
You know where it is.
I know where it is.
You know where it is.
The board knows where it is.
Okay.
This
but-
is one of those things that we go into executive session, and we
Okay.
can go in for real estate,
Yeah.
and we're past that.
But it has to be in a location that's going to be serviced by this new water system.
Yeah, so you
right?
can keep on thinking where it is.
Okay. And then the second question, talking about water, what will be the source of this water? Would there be a water tower, or, it sounds like a pretty massive
Oh,
water
you're
system.
coming in late, buddy.
I am coming
You're
in. I don't know
coming in
anything
late.
about the
So the
water
whole
system.
idea of the plan here is that the water source is on Route 4, behind the Mountain Times and the bakery there.
Okay.
The land company owns the land there. Michael Snade with Great Gulf is in the process of purchasing this upon a yes vote on Article 5, within, I think, 45 to 60 days after March 7th, that they will purchase it. The town will get all the easements for that water down there. The town has already tested the service area down there. We had a hydrologist brought in. There's 1.5 million gallons a day worth of water, which for the full build-out, they only need probably around 700,000 gallons over the next 20 years up there. And the town will be getting the rest of the water, which will be plenty enough water to do everything that we have in, and hopefully start expanding the water lines going further up off of the Killington Road. I think right now we're planning like the sewer line where it goes 500 feet off of the Killington Road. So we are.
Storage tanks will be
Yeah, why don't you just
on the
describe the
ridge. If the map was up, you could show it, but anyway, they'll be up on the ridge.
Stephanie, do you want to put up the?
We'll go cross-country?
Over
Send
by,
it
yeah.
to
Yeah, just to
a
throw that
storage
Why put the
tank,
map up?
Stephanie's gonna put the map up and then just run through from the Mountain Times.
So it goes up above the snow shed.
So, can you see that?
Pressurizes
Yes.
everything. Yep.
Okay. So this is down here, we don't have the Mountain Times located on this map, but that's right down here, right? Yeah. And it comes up, it crosses Route 4, transmission line follows the path I'm following here, all the way up to the storage tank, and starts flowing, gravity flowing down.
So you
Down,
remember
down,
the
down,
old
down.
white house that used to be in the flats on Route 4 that was taken down?
yeah.
Okay, so the water will come along Route 4 behind the old pasta pot next thing. It will then go underneath the road where there is a permit in place already with the state. It will show up around that area where that house was. We'll have an easement that goes all the ways up to East Mountain Road, then we'll be in the town right away, and then we'll cross over and we'll come up along your building there.
Behind
It's up
Edgemont.
where
It's behind Edgemont. It's like
Fall
1,000
Line
feet
condos
up
are.
Then we'll get up
If you go
into,
up the hill behind it, it's not something you're gonna see from the road.
Right.
If you go for a hike in the woods, you'll see
You
the
see
building.
it.
But it's up in the woods behind where Trail Creek, Fall Line, Edgemont are in that big corner.
So
That's
no
where the
big
tank is
water
going to
tower.
be.
No, it'll be, actually,
No.
it'll be a ground constructed tank, because it's all gravity fed out. The only reason you need towers, usually you have a lot of flat land and you gotta push. So this will be built like into the hill, and it'll protrude up somewhat, but it'll be basically ground mounted.
I think I heard 36 inches above the ground.
In some areas, I don't know if it's the whole thing or, yeah, but it's mostly down
It'll be
low.
like our tower there by the, in the middle of the access road, you know, kind of looks like a,
The new cell tower, I know.
that cell tower. That horrible cell tower.
That one of the select board gets a lease payment on, right?
But part of this building needs to be above ground for the controls
Sure.
to be, so you'll have, the storage is essentially in the ground. And you'll probably have like one story of where all the controls, where the pumps access into the, and also testing of the water that some of it can be done on site, most of it will have to be sent out to a certified lab.
And since we took a hit at our select board member over here in his tower, let's just remember one thing. That tower was first proposed to be right across from Deers Leap. So.
Yes.
thank-
Oh, I know.
I know about
You
that.
That's where I
thank him
live.
for having it moved over to the commercial area.
Thank you for that.
Thank you
part
for
of it.
that. We appreciate that.
We have the hand up back?
As far as water towers, what is comparable to the one over at Sunrise?
It's not a tower, Mike.
Okay.
It's a tank that's about 3 or 4 feet above
Well,
ground.
at
It's a
Sunrise,
mobile.
there's a tank.
It's a 750,000 gallon tank that's primarily in ground.
There's one over at Sunrise, you can see it, it's smaller than that.
It
is
will
what
not be
you're saying.
plastic. It might be plastic lined, but it's concrete, I believe.
The one at Sunrise is a tower.
It's a,
Tank.
Well, there's also a
it's
tower.
not on any pedestal or anything, it's just.
Yeah, okay. Is this,
Debbie?
Yeah, when you're reconstructing the Killington Road, are you gonna leave in all those culverts that were put in there a few years ago? You know,
The section from Route 4 to about Darkside, about 90% of those culverts have been replaced. They do not need to be replaced again. They
Oh,
will stay in place,
Good.
especially the ones that were permitted as streams crossings. The issue is all the closed drainage from like Schoolhouse Road up. None of those have been replaced since 1980, whatever they were built in.
Yeah.
So those will probably all be rebuilt.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they find some damage to one or, there's something else, so.
And this is important to understand, this is done with TIF dollars, okay? From the incremental growth, okay? Nothing that we would ever have to budget for in the future of redoing portions of the Killington Road. We're rebuilding the entire Killington Road with TIF dollars.
You're starting to sink.
When you say rebuilding, you mean you're gonna dig up the pavement?
Yes,
Really?
yes.
you're getting a whole new road.
You're getting sidewalks
Yeah,
further up on both sides of the road,
yeah,
proper drainage, fire hydrants,
yeah.
everything that this road needs
Will the
is
road be
being done
wider?
with this incremental tax.
No, the road will not be
funding.
wider, but there'll be actual pull-offs with actual, and then some of us that like the traffic lights that used to be up on the Killington Road, there will be traffic lights back up, say, up by Dean Hill Road, okay? Then I think a little bit further up too, there used to be one up by Choices up there, so,
And keep in mind, that's not in phase one,
yeah, we're not, this is all.
so.
So what
that's
Stephanie
future
is trying to do
phases.
is to keep us to that this is this part of the project that goes up there. What we're talking about now
It's
is,
future.
we will be in front of you again later on for the rest of the road coming down, and it will also be once again with TIF dollars, okay? So I think, my buddy back here had his hand up behind Lisa.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The first one.
What's your name, sir?
Oh, it's Andrew Salomon. How many state agencies are going to be involved on the state side of putting this pipe in, down and up and then down again? Do you
Zero
know?
state.
Stay again?
State people?
State. And somebody has to come in to stamp it, to approve it? It's a water system. I just thinking that there may be somebody like that.
The drinking water.
Well, the drinking
There's
water.
permits.
There's
So, sir,
permits. So
say
a lot
again?
of the permits have been in place by SP Land, and we're just renewing them.
Yeah,
Fine.
many
Do we
permits.
have to present the permits to them? Or I don't mean the nitty-gritty of this. What I'm concerned about is there may be 12 different agencies, and you don't have anybody assigned to, one person to be assigned to deal with them. And I think if it's going to be a large number of agencies, that maybe one person should be assigned to it, so there's no confusion.
Well,
And
where
so
I'm lost,
that's
yeah,
all I'm
but,
concerned about.
but Andy, where I'm lost is that there's a company called, there's a person by the name of Wayne Elliott that we have hired on, that this is what he does for a living for like, I don't know, 40 years, and he gets all the permits and stuff together, and, SP Land already put it in. No, you asked the
I
question.
know, but I know Wayne Elliott. I mean, I know the
Yeah,
situation.
okay, so he's the one that goes and makes sure that everything's up. There's more than one person, there's a company behind this.
Yeah,
We
okay.
hire a company. Wayne is more than one person.
Okay.
I can also add that the system is being funded through the state as well. So, I mean, those grants that are coming down, as well as our, some of the loan source will be through the drinking water division at the state. And so there's a lot of oversight.
Right, so I was concerned about who's gonna manage that oversight, so it's in our favor. That's all I'm concerned about.
Wayne.
Got it, thank you.
Yep.
Also, is Jim Harrison involved with this at all, from his point of view, for the state to help us at all?
So Jim Harrison has been at many meetings that we had thrown in the beginning and throwing still now. We've been meeting up with all federal and state senators and all different departments in the state for funding. Joan Goldstein, which is, I guess, Phil Scott's right-hand person for this type of funds coming in. We've had Megan Young from the Water Division for public water or whatever. She's been involved. We've had a lot of these meetings that you folks were not allowed to come into. Some of them were 30 to 40 different officials from federal down to local Rutland County.
Thank you. I have a couple more. With Anthony Way, you mentioned that the water pipe will be there. I understand that there's also going to be, later on, a different phase, a larger diameter sewer pipe. And I was under the impression that the larger pipe, at this time, when they manage the grading of Anthony Way area there, that they would be putting the larger sewer pipe down at the same time as they put the new
So
water
I'm gonna
pipe.
correct you there, because everybody's looking at me like the planner. It's not a sewer pipe, I think you're talking about a culvert. The sewer's already in there and can handle.
Is that right, Chet?
Yes,
Yeah.
That
Right
the
now-
diameter pipe that's in there now can handle the new pipe coming in?
that is correct.
Good.
There's not, other than the potential for additional development, there's no issues with needing a larger sewer system. We are currently working with the city of Rutland and, and Alpine Pipeline to ensure that we have enough available flow for any additional development that would happen along this corridor. So all of those things are coming into play. The only question that we are aware of that, could come into play, depending on how much development happens, is the size of our pump stations, and would we have to ever increase those a little? But other than that, I think we're in a good place.
Let's stick to Anthony.
I got one more and then that's it. And that is, you guys did a great job. There's no doubt in my
Is
mind.
that a question?
No. My concern is this, is that once this thing gets moving, it could become a steamroller for you guys sitting there. So are you planning to put another committee or a new hires in to work with this?
I thought I answered that question to Debbie, and I don't know if Debbie has her hand up a second time, but we have hired on, and we have in our budget for other places to hire on.
For the water system?
Well, you will need
For this
that under
complete
public
project.
works.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
It's
But
not
it
just
could be
water.
18 years from now, before we call in number 17, you know?
Yeah. I might still be around.
No, you won't be around. Thank you.
I think Debbie
Has her hand up
LeBlanc
again?
has her hand up or didn't put it down.
No, I put it up again. Thanks, Jim. And I agree, you guys are doing a great job. My other question is, it's municipal water, so who owns the water? And usually you get charged by usage. I haven't heard any talk about that. Can you explain that part of it?
Well, currently, we do not own the water, and that's why we have to go into a development agreement and get a yes vote on 5, so we can own the water. Okay, it will be turned over to the town. The town will be running it. Gets back to Andy's question about who we're gonna hire. We will have a public works person for a water, just like we have for the sewer. And anyone that is hooked onto this system will be paying, just like we do in a sewer district, for their sewer usage. So, those that are not hooked onto the water system are not going to be charged, just like the sewer system, for the operation and management of it. I think it's called O&M or whatever. They will not be charged, only those that are on the water system.
Okay, but the town owns the water and will be billing.
We are not gonna leave it in the hands of a third party. The town will own it. Sorry, Michael,
Okay,
not
right.
even you.
All right, thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, I own a big stretch of land along Killington Road.
Right.
And when they put in the culverts a few years ago, they, without asking me, I have a horse fence that goes around about 8 acres, and it's a woven welded horse fence that there's a special tool that they use to stretch it and attach it to posts and stuff. Well, they cut that without,
So Debbie, if
So
we
are they
need to
gonna-
get permission from you, we will get permission from you.
Oh.
If we don't need permission from you, we won't. And if you say no, we'll find a way around it.
okay.
We
'Cause,
will not take down your woven fence for your horses.
yeah, it's a woven welded horse fence.
I know what it is, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful, and we
Oh,
will
you
not.
can't see it, that's why I had that,
I've been up close, so.
okay. Well, they cut that, and when I
Yeah.
saw that, I panicked because I had a horse in the field, and, and then the next night, somebody's bull got out on Route 4, and,
Yeah. Let's not go through all those bad memories.
no, I know, but,
I don't need to be reminded.
Your fence
Yeah,
should
but
be,
it-
your fence should be left alone.
Your fence
Yeah.
will be left alone.
100%.
Anything we come on, we will
Okay.
talk to you.
all right,
I don't know who did that, I don't know how long ago, but this group wasn't on the board,
okay.
all right?
Yeah, I was pretty shocked, but,
Okay.
so I've been wondering about the sidewalk that's gonna go along that side that abuts my,
I'll get back
field.
to you in 2 years,
oh, okay,
okay?
yeah.
Hey, Jim.
Get
Yeah.
that far.
Sorry, I just want to point out, someone labeled C&H has had their hand up for a while
Okay.
on the screen not on the Zoom, so I just wanted to make sure that was seen.
Okay, thank you.
Rep-
But Debbie,
Representing your Zoom community.
we're working through the plans. Right now, the plan is the phase that Stephanie showed us. The rest of it, when we get those, where we have a surveyor that's been out there now,
Right.
that's the next step. So be prepared, like, late '23, early '24 for us to come. And we'll make sure that we speak to everybody along the road.
We're finding out exactly where the road is,
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
The road shifted here and there over the years, okay? So
Yeah.
we're finding out where the boundaries are so that we know that we're gonna keep everything within
right.
and build as such.
If I need the key to the fence, I'll get it,
Oh, okay, I have it, just
okay?
give me a call.
So let's go back to Caroline.
Caroline?
Um,
Hi, my name's Caroline Wise. I just have a quick question circling back to the guarantee you mentioned on the developers, which is great. Is it a bonded guarantee?
Bonded guarantee, no, it's to the property value, which if the taxes go up, it's to the taxes. So, Michael may not like to hear this, but if Great Gulf doesn't pay their taxes, they're treated the same like anybody else in town. It goes for a tax sale.
Okay.
Yeah, but
There's no bond, you don't need it because it's like that. That's,
Michael's shaking his head, he's not worried.
yeah, I know. Michael, do you want to talk about the development agreement, how it gets into, what you're guaranteeing us?
Sure. Jim, you've done a great job of explaining it. The guarantee runs with the land, and just like anybody who doesn't pay their property taxes, there's a process to reclaim the land and sell it in order to realize on the lost revenue.
So I'd like to take the question to the next thing. So if Mike,
We should let them know that he's Great Gulf.
well, I thought I said Michael State is
Sorry.
Great Gulf.
Michael Snade I'm president of Great Gulf Resort Residential.
So I'm gonna throw the question to Killington Ski Resort sitting here. If they don't pay their taxes, are you gonna let me buy this land in a tax sale and then lease it back to you at a higher rate, Mike? I think we know the answer to that, folks. This isn't an area that the resort needs the land. It's not gonna happen. This development agreement is bulletproof. you know?
Yeah, the value of the land substantially more than what the tax base is, right? So the math would never, nobody's gonna let the land go. There's just
You're
no-
not gonna let
There's
the
no
land
math
go.
that says you'd let the land go because it's too valuable.
Powder's not gonna let this land go. No, well,
Oh, okay.
in the back,
Patrick Cushing,
yes.
live in town. And so my one question, I know that we're not getting to specifics about the housing because that's still the works, but something's coming soon. Just to clarify, is the, and again, I support this as well, but is the first phase, which is voting on, is that including some of this housing, or is this necessary steps to then get to?
It's necessary steps to get to. There's no,
It's the infrastructure.
It's
the
you're right,
infrastructure.
It's infrastructure to then get to the, a year or two vote from now
yeah.
to get it.
But I mean, this pipe is coming down to Ravine Road.
Right.
I don't know, someone might start putting in housing, you know, on top of a building. I don't think I would want on top of the Outback or whatever, or with the pizza shop going, but you never know. Maybe that'll get turned over to housing.
Right, it gives the opportunity.
It gives
for
the
it.
opportunity, and there's some land in between there that may have an opportunity.
Okay.
We don't know that until we get, I can't really take that step, or this board can't take this step until we have March 7th vote, folks. So, Art Malinsky is on.
Art,
raising
you're
his
up.
hand.
C&H has been waiting for a really long
Oh, I
time.
don't see C&H.
We don't see her.
I
We
just
don't
have to point out, they're raising their hand right there.
Oh, go ahead, C&H.
They just have to unmute. Thank you.
Where is she? Right there in
Connie.
the middle.
Connie and Howard.
It's Connie Barkash.
Yeah,
Howard.
and Howard.
listening. I have a question regarding, it seems as though most of the discussion that's going on and the future development would be for second homeowners. It seems, for me, I would really like to see primary homeowners come in, homesteaders, people who are committed to the community, who are committed to the town, who want to volunteer, and who want to work within the community that has been established by so many people from the 60s and 70s that we grew into. And after that post-COVID price hike, what I've heard is that most of it was for Airbnbs. So there's really not, and I know that that's what happened on our road, is that there's really nobody permanent that bought homes that were for sale. So the commitment to the town is not there. Yeah, maybe they'll pay their taxes and we'll be lucky, but why are we targeting second homeowners when we should be targeting people who want to live in town permanently, go to school here? Oh yeah, and then when they graduate high school, they can leave. But why are we targeting second homeowners? That's my question and my opinion. And I'm entitled.
I don't know why we're saying we're targeting second homeowners. We had a question. You talked, Connie, we're gonna get, you know this is like oil and vinegar, you and I and the rest of people in town or whatever.
I know that,
So can I finish? Because you finished, all right? You had a question, we had a question from John in the back of the room. His concern was we're gonna have too many new kids here, okay? Did you hear that part, Connie?
I did, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So I don't know who's gonna buy these places, Connie, but also by getting the water down the road, we have said opens up areas up and down the road for market rate housing, which are units that will be able to house people that want to commit to this town.
No, they're not, they're committing to making money for themselves. That's it. I'll
Okay.
stop.
Jim, can I hop in?
Connie's done, it's okay, she's done.
I just have another point I'd like to add to that though, because maybe that perspective is shared by others, and I want to just add one other piece, which is that this particular development that will result out of phase one is the only one we can predict with any amount of prediction, because we have that development agreement, and so we know that those plans are in place. As Jim said, there may be other developments at other price points that are possible now with the creation of the water system. But what I want to point out, something that I learned in this process a couple of years ago here, as we're dealing with this housing crisis, is the importance of supply and the supply and demand model of housing, the supply at every price point. Because one of the feelings that a lot of communities across Vermont, ski communities in particular, have been facing is that people who want second homes are coming into the communities and buying up homes that should be for full-time residents, homes that are meant to be for full-time residents. And so by creating stock at this other level that's really intended for second homeowners, you're now increasing the supply so that then the other homes which are maybe more in the community, within the neighborhoods that are gonna send kids to the schools, are now available when people do wanna sell them, and they're available for other people to buy. So that was just a lesson I learned kind of along this process over the last few years, and I thought I'd share.
And
Thank
thank you
you.
for sharing that. I really do hope that you're correct, and that we will see people coming in and buying homes and will commit to the community and commit to the town. I mean, to build a village that we know is targeted to tourists and second homeowners, that's fine. It'll make Jim very, very happy. But
Why?
we still need.
It's that oil and vinegar. Thank you, Connie.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
Art's been waiting with his hand up. Go ahead, Art.
Well, thank you. I wish I could have been there tonight, but I can't drive at night right now due to eye surgery, so I have to do it this way. First is the alleged skunk at the garden party from last year.
Not alleged, you said it.
I do want to say that the agreement itself, as Jim said, I said at some point, the agreement itself, the development agreement, frankly, covers a lot of the risk that I saw early on in this development project. But a couple of questions I do have, and they concern the bonds themselves. Do we know what the interest rate on these bonds are going to be? Because they have to be higher than what was first projected last year.
Not really.
Well, we don't have we do not have the exact interest rates yet because we have not yet submitted to the bond bank. That will happen after the vote and when you're ready to enter the municipal bond bank pool for a bond, if we're doing a municipal bond. But in the public notice that will be posted to the website, it's a longer notice, that's a document that's required for information. It shows a range of interest rates. And Art, I know you're gonna get into the details because you kind of, in the best way possible, nerd out on this stuff the way that I do, is that there's maybe 3 different debt instruments that will be used in this. We may be using a combination of municipal bonds, SRF, the state revolving fund for the drinking water loans, and USDA financing. And all 3 have different interest rate ranges right now, and we won't know the exact interest rate until we actually apply.
What would be are the bonds 30-year bonds?
20-year for
20-year?
20 for 2 of those sources and 30 for the SRF.
Are there call provisions?
I don't know.
So that if the interest rate is higher now than it will be several years down the road?
With USDA, yes, you can reset, but the others I'm not sure.
So Stephanie, let's hit on to the SRF funding or whatever that we've got. There's a certain amount of money is being given as forgivable. And currently they've committed to us how much of forgivable loans this season around?
Right, so we're in different cycles. There's different cycles. We may get more with the next cycle even before we are done with phase 1, but 3.6 million in for forgivable loan and the ARPA grant, which is separate, but there's a commitment for a portion of this to be through the SRF program as well, which is a low interest rate loan.
So the money, when we say low interest rate loan, I believe I saw it in the 14, I think it's 14 pages, I don't know, whatever document it is. It has down that the rate is 1% and 2% annum. So you're looking at about 2% to 3% on the SRF. And that really doesn't change because of, it's the state revolving fund with the way the rates go. USDA, I think, was shooting us out at what rate at this point? I mean, it's February. I think it was 3.6 to 3.88% in the 14-page document. And
3.5 to 3.6 for USDA and 3.8 to 3.9 for bond bank.
for the bond bank. And that's a hell of a lot. That's about where we were in the beginning, Stephanie, when we were talking some 12 months ago. I think we were using around 3.5% to 4% or whatever in that call there.
Yeah, you told me to estimate high.
Yep. So basically,
That's what we did.
So basically, Art, even though we're seeing that mortgage rates went really up high, but now they're starting to settle a little bit, we're still half of that at the high point. So.
Okay. Because I don't understand why a loan is forgivable. How does that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. I learned that too. And so this is through the drinking water program. And so they do this as a form of subsidy for the projects that are deemed, this is part of their the overall document that they put out, the intended use plan, IUP. And so certain applications, we submitted an application with our qualified project, and they deemed that it's essentially a grant. It's 3.6 million.
When I would say to them, so it's free money, they would correct me, the state, and they would say, no, this is a forgivable loan. Okay. I'm not gonna argue with them, they're giving you $3 million on, and you don't have to pay them back.
Can I get one of those?
That's what I tried for, but I'm not gonna argue with them, they're giving it to us, and they can call it whatever they want.
Okay.
Someone wants to know what the interest rate is on it.
Okay. Jim, you mentioned something earlier about the education tax, and there's been a lot of talk, I don't know how they're ever gonna solve this problem, about changing the education funding in this state from as much as, they're doing it today with the education tax, lowering that and finding a way around funding from other sources, assuming, income tax or something. If the education tax drops by, I don't know, 50%, who knows, pick a number, how does that impact the revenue if we're not taxing property at the same rate? Are we putting ourselves in some way at risk for then having to pick up the tab on this?
So Art, you like the word risk, and I knew it going into this. And currently our property taxes for the education fund is 2.002 on your last bill that everybody has to pay, I guess, by February 10th or whatever. The non-residential is at 1.93 and change. The number that Stephanie asked me to come up with was, what do you think it's going to be? And sitting on the school board and everything else, we used the number of $1.65. The majority, sorry Connie, but the majority of the properties up in the area up there for the TIF incremental financing probably are going to be second homes. And the state is not going to change. They're not going to ask an income based on a person that lives out of state. That is for homestead properties. So $1.65 is the number we're using. So if you come down from the current $2 to $1.65, you can see that I already put in a drop in that rate, Art.
Okay, I think it's a very good point that most of those properties will be second homes and not subject to the same tax rate, so.
For the town currently, the current breakdown is about 90% non-residential.
And that's been for decades.
That's been for a long, long time, because only about 10% of our taxable value is residential or homestead.
Okay. Last question. We're in a labor shortage, and we probably will be in a tight labor market now for at least the next several years. Who's going to be building all this development? Where is the labor coming from?
So basically, I've got to go back to that we're putting in the infrastructure, and Great Gulf through Michael Snade has come to an agreement that once this thing goes through, they accept the property value to go up. So if it takes them 3 more years to get the labor that you're talking about of building a village, Michael understands and his company understands the value in this project, and we're gonna raise the land up. But I'll let Michael talk about his company at this point, because I don't think he has a labor shortage.
Yeah, we recognize that building in urban centers, it's much easier to get trades to do the building. And so what Great Gulf has done in order to facilitate building of homes in suburban and rural locations is we actually have a factory that builds all of the wall systems, the floors, and the ceilings and trusses that go into houses. They're then shipped as panels on flatbed trailers out to the sites. So the heavy carpentry work is all done by robot in our factories. And so we don't have to bring in as much unskilled labor to work on the projects as other projects. Our factory is about 200,000 square feet. And we've got significant capacity left in the factory because we do a significant amount of work for home builders beyond Great Gulf. So we can always add more Great Gulf work to our panelized systems. And I'm very proud to say that our panels go out. It's the same quality as furniture. The glue joints, the nailing, it's all perfect. And nowadays we're also putting in the windows up front. I was interested to see last summer when I went to Stowe that their latest project up at Stowe is being built with a panelized system.
Interesting. Okay, I think that's it for me.
Thanks a lot, Art.
Thanks, Art.
Thank you.
Thanks for keeping us on our toes. Go ahead, Deb.
So, this whole ski season, I've noticed a huge increase in the amount of traffic, people driving up, and, you know, I ski on a Saturday and Sunday morning, but I leave at about 9:15, and, well, I can still get out of my parking spot, and, so with the loss of the parking lot at well, Ram's Head and Snow Shed, I'm worried about where everybody's gonna park, and I know there's some land just below the old Mountain Inn that's projected for replacement parking, but is that gonna require people getting on buses, or is there gonna be a lift coming down? I know at one time somebody was talking about a overhead lift over from the golf course to,
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, and in the Act 250 permit that these folks have, that the land company has, which will be transferred over to Great Gulf. Inside that Act 250 permit says the minute they take one parking space away, they must build another parking space. Mike Salamano and Jeff are behind you, and Amy also from the resort.
yeah.
I mean, they are working very hard with Great Gulf on working out their plan for parking and everything else.
Yeah.
This board is sitting here, we're bringing a road, taking over a road from above the lookout to East Mountain Road. We are not getting involved in their project up there. I think Mike, Jeff could hit on that. Their number one thing is they understand that they have a lot of day skiers, and he can talk about the relationship he's having with Michael Snade with Great Gulf.
Yeah, I mean, so as Jim just said, they're required to replace all the parking spaces, right? So, but we do, recently, the last 2 weekends have been really busy. So, part of the problem with the system now is when people are parking on the road in the wrong direction that they're trying to leave, that, as you can imagine, they're trying to turn a U-turn, which is really not great. So, I think as this gets built out, so if we get some parking with busing that's really designed well, or maybe a lift, we've talked about a bunch of different things. It's not, the permitting is set for a bus system, but, much more efficient than the way we're parking people now in all these different random spots. And, I think, so that's the thought. But there's, Michael and I, we've had a bunch of discussions about some other alternatives. But, yeah, so we're very focused on it. Parking, and getting people here is the goal. That's the point, making it as efficient as possible.
I mean, I parked my car, Debbie, at Charities on a Sunday afternoon at like 11:45 on World Cup, which was crowded. All right, if they can replicate that, there was a separate bus lane going up there at that point that I think they're looking into. I'd take that any day than going up there and trying to sneak out at 9:30 and fighting down. It was what you did up there for World Cup was amazing.
Yeah, so if you look at World Cup, we have a dedicated bus lane. What happens now is the buses all get stuck in the traffic on a normal day. But we solved that for World Cup. So I think as we build this out, we would need to make sure that we have a system, that system's designed sort of like that it's actually faster to just park in a lot and jump on a bus if it's efficient, right? I mean, a lot of people from World Cup figured parking at Pico's probably the best deal going, right, than trying to drive up the road. So, that's just something we're working through, but I mean, they're required to keep the same amount of parking spaces. And, as we go through different phases, how that looks changes. But we've been working with the town and Great Gulf trying to make sure that's a huge factor in our business.
Yeah.
Get in the room. Go ahead, Andrew.
Andrew Gedda, I'm a resident here since 2004. I'm a business owner. So what's nice, for an hour and a half we talked about, I would call it SWOT analysis like we do for businesses. Strength, we talked about strength. We talked about opportunities, about strength, weaknesses. So we also talked about weaknesses too. But what about the threat to this project? Like, what if economy goes down, we have a natural disaster, what if we have interest rates through the roof? How are we gonna get stuck with a big bond, for example, right? So that's the biggest...
So let me hit on your threat. I think you may not have been listening, but I answered the answer on threat and SWOT already. The developer has come into an agreement for us to raise the property value to pay for the bond, okay? If the developer doesn't pay their taxes, it goes for a tax sale, which this developer is not going to let happen anyway. And if that happens, Mike Salamano or Powder is not going to allow Jim Half to buy it for the tax dollar amount and then lease it back to them for $2 million higher. It's just not going to happen. The development agreement has the threat taken away.
It's just in real life, I see Enron, I see other companies, no offense, right?
Don't-
Things do happen, things do happen. But
Please do not put us with Enron.
Things do happen, and I just basically wanted to say if we're
Listen,
prepared.
if the resort can't pick up this land for the property taxes, which it's not gonna happen, Michael's sitting there going, what is he talking about? It's not gonna happen, but if it did happen, the resort's not going to let it get into somebody else's hands, okay? And if the resort could let it get into somebody else's hands, it's gonna be another ski resort, and they're not gonna have that happen. This development agreement has that taken away. This team here put a lot of work in with Great Gulf, with the resort and the town to get the threat taken away from SWAT. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so that's a good answer.
Is there any more letters in
I have
SWAT?
one more question. So as we know, we have potential 4 phases. In real life, I see lots of times phase 1 happens, second happens, third might happen, and fourth never happens. So do we have some kind of guarantee here that it will happen no matter what? So that can actually, that water will come to Route 4?
So I gotta repeat, like, go back in reverse. We have a development agreement to do this. This is the first phase. The development agreement is saying that, okay, in there. The minute we have 160 units built, okay, if you don't think there could be 160 units built, everything else is gonna get done. I don't care how bad of a recession there is out there. If you play the stock market, and yes, play it, because that's what it is, it's a game, okay? And people lose and people gain. And people are gaining money when the market goes down. People are making money when it goes up, all right? Do you believe that there's in an 8-hour drive within the town of Killington, the ski resort, 160 people that can afford, no matter what the recession is, if there is one, $1 million, $1.5 million home? I say yes, but this is a phase 1, phase 2. You're looking at 4 phases in this project. Those 4 or 5 phases in here are only in 2 phases of bonding. So the minute we get to this phase, and then when you say we get into phase 2 and 3, 4 is already in the numbers, Andrew.
I think what's not clear is that the first phase of the development project pays for all the phasing of the infrastructure. I think that's where there might be a little bit of a disconnect.
You know,
We don't need those other phases. Okay.
you know, we need what is approved in Act 250, which they call Phase 1 ABC, okay, which is the 180 units up there. And they're pledging those. Any more letters in SWAT that we haven't hit? I thought it was tactical. Anything else, Andrew?
Art's got his hand up again.
Go ahead, Art.
Yeah, quick question. For the people who are still worried about how this all works out, what is the annual revenue requirement to pay the interest and principal on the bonds?
I'm gonna leave that
If we borrow $47 million, what is the annual revenue requirement that Michael is committing his company to?
I think Stephanie has it broken out because she also said we would not be borrowing it all along.
If you don't have it
We're not getting it all at once.
Michael's pulling up, since he's the one making the guarantee.
$2.5 million is what I remember seeing.
Yeah, $2.5 million.
Can you repeat the question? My internet cut out for a second.
I didn't hear the answer.
Well, she's
Sorry,
ready
can you
for the
repeat
question.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the question. Sorry, my internet cut out for a minute. I was between 2 laptops.
I was asking what the annual revenue requirement that Michael is committing his company to is to pay for, if we issue $47 million in debt, and nothing ever happens, and we build the pipe and do all the work, what is the annual revenue requirement to pay off the bonds?
And then I said, for Michael, since he's making the guarantee, and he is pulling up his of what he is guaranteeing and what he has down for his payments, and I think Michael answered about $2.5 million.
I think he said 3.5, but yeah, it's
Okay.
between 3.5 and 4, a little over 4, annually.
And to a company the size of
$2.5
Great
million
Gulf,
increase.
I'm sorry, Michael, you and I were talking at the same time.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at my pro forma here. It starts out at $2.5 million and it grows to $4 million.
Okay, and to a company the size of Great Gulf, that is, well, not chicken feed, it's,
Great Gulf is the second largest private home builder in the United States. We build about 5,000 units a year in the United States. We're also one of the largest home builders in Canada, both single-family homes, mid-rise homes, and high-rise. And the city of Toronto
selected Great Gulf to develop 4,000 units on the waterfront on their behalf. So we're a very large, very successful company. We've been in business since 1975, and we've got several different business units. I'm resort residential. We've got low-rise residential, high-rise residential, commercial, and then our high-tech division, which includes our panelization factory. So if one sector of the business isn't doing well, the other sectors make up for it. It's a very successful, very diverse company North America wide.
So a couple of $1 million a year and a commitment to Killington is not make or break.
No.
Okay.
I like that smile, Michael.
Anybody who wants to check into just one of our divisions, it's called Ashton Woods. They report publicly in the United States, and so you can look at on them on CDOT.
Great. Anything else, Art?
No, I just wanted to, understand what this means to Great Gulf, which kind of defines what the risk is for us. If all this goes to hell, and we've already issued bonds, they're in good shape to pay it regardless.
Thanks, Art. I got CNH putting their hand up. I think it's Howard now.
This is the H portion. A quick follow-up on Art's question. When the town takes the bond loan, are they gonna do like they did with the golf course? And that the first 20 years is just interest payments? And then the end of it, you have to pay the lump sum? Or are we gonna do it, spread it out over the full length of the bond?
So I'll hit up on that, Art. I came into town in 1997. There was a bond put out for the golf course. The bond was not set up for interest only for the first 20 years. Management at that time, none of us here, decided that when they weren't getting enough revenue, they were borrowing funds and kept on borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. I moved into town, whatever, some of you didn't like the way I came off. I guess my presentation was wrong or whatever. Sorry about that. But, we turned the golf course around. In the last 6 years, the golf course has changed dramatically. We still had $5.5 million worth of debt some 10 years ago. What is the debt on the golf course now, Chet? About
1 not just a hair under $1 million.
1.5?
It was 1.183.
Right.
And there's 80,000 left on the bonds. We just made another payment, so it's a little bit less than the 1.183.
So now can you now talk about what's in the current year that we have a tax payment that the golf course is paying? How much of that bond, which they never paid anything of the bond before?
Basically, the loans that Jim was talking about that became interest-only loans were operations losses, and they were taking $200,000 to $300,000 a year, and the voters were voting to borrow it. That was the loan that became the $2.53 million that was taken out in the 2009 or 10 timeframe. That was then refinanced to pay all that off and start paying principal. There still was a balloon payment. We have now gone through that 10 years, and we refinanced the last piece of it. We have 1.1 million of that left. All of the other original bonds will be done over the next 2 years, and I believe there's only two $30,000 payment and one $20,000 payment left on those. So we are well below that type of rate, and for the first time in history, because last year the select board did require that the golf course pay those two smaller bonds that are expiring, and this is the first year it's actually going to pay for the whole 1.183 payment, which means that the town will no longer be making any bond payments for the golf course.
And I'd just like to kick up on top of that. This board has really done a good job of doing this and doing that. So anyone that has Burlington questions, I think we just showed you what this board is capable of doing. We turned the debt down on a golf course and turned it around. Anything else, Howard?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the town doesn't do that again where it requires a balloon payment at the end of the,
I don't even want to hear balloon.
Yeah, no, this,
Only in Queechee.
there's nobody's gonna allow that, and actually the state
The
wouldn't allow it.
state's not going to allow it,
Because
Howard.
it's part of the, as part of the TIF requirement, we have 20 years to use TIF funds to pay for the bonds. So therefore, and there can be no balloon payment at that point. So these have to be paid as straight bonds, whether they're loans from the SRF fund, the state revolving fund for water, or they're USDA funds, or if they're straight bond bank funds. They all will be incurring interest and paying principal every year.
And Michael already went through that he knows what the payments are that the town has to collect through him selling places or whatever.
I just don't want to see a similar mistake made.
You can keep your eyes open, it won't happen.
That's hard to do.
Okay.
Howard.
Anybody else on the screen? Seeing none. Anybody else in the audience? Go ahead, Mike. Mike, say your full name so the person taking minutes.
Mike Hodgelig, I'm over on Rebecca Lane, and I had property since '97, and I'm full-time resident since '99, raised my family here, 3 kids, but first of all, I just wanted, what I've been following online, and I think everybody has done a great job on this whole process, and give Killington some credit for trying to work this along. I'm not afraid to pay a little bit more taxes for some infrastructure in this town, but like these gentlemen here, I would like to see some of that wealth go to the lower income and not necessarily the $1.5 million homes. But besides, I'm not going to get into. My quick question is, I live on Rebecca Lane, and I have a water quantity problem, not a quality problem. And I would like to know, is it ever going to be possible to connect to this water system?
So in the earlier part, I don't know if you came in a little bit later, Mike, because I didn't see you walk in a little bit, whatever, but I had mentioned we're starting this off at about 500 feet off, like the sewer line. After a few years, we'll have a better number on a quantity of water that's needed. And just like some of the sewer lines has been improved and moved, Chris can fill in that there's a district, but then it's extended past the district. That is possible. Can you just mute them?
Who is it? That was Art.
Nothing in the foreseen next 5 or 6 years, 10 years, let's say.
Say that again?
Nothing in the foreseen 5, 10, 6 years?
I can't give a date on it. I mean, we're getting water through H Road and Old Mill Road through H Road, up behind the distillery there. And we're bringing it through the woods there to hit into Ravine Road. There was talk at one point of running it through the golf course or whatever and getting down Roaring Brook Road. You know, there's so many different ideas rolling through each one of our heads as board members, but until March 7th, I'm gonna slow my brain down, buddy.
But it is a start to a municipal system, okay? And then you see many municipalities expand and build on in time, but we have to start somewhere, and the best we can do is to get this water source and get it up there, allow this village to be built, and bring it down the road for us to do all these projects with.
No, I agree, and I'm not afraid to pay some tax to do that, but I would just
The
like to
plan
know.
says no.
I would just like to know, is it ever?
Unless you want to kick in $1
This
million
plan is
for
not
Michael.
gonna tax you.
Well, one way or another, we're gonna get taxed.
You could share the bill with Michael. Hey, Michael, you got somebody that wants to pay part of the bill.
Maybe I'm not, but eventually, you got health people coming in, you got somewhere along the line, and that's what a town's all about, to pay those.
See, I don't see it that way, just to make sure. You know, Polly's here from the Mountain Times. You know, we've done articles on the CLA, she's done articles on the CLA and the school taxes. This town cannot control the state education tax. But what we can do as a town is control the municipal tax rate. And, you know, we're talking about taking a road over from East Mountain, from the Lookout to the Grand Hotel. How many miles is that?
It's just shy of 2.
Just shy of 2. We're talking in this numbers in TIF, if you're following it, that the increment is going to be $285 million, Stephanie? The full build-out of A, B, and C, I think is like 285?
About that.
Okay.
285.
The grand list currently sits at,
7.980.
okay, just about 800 million. You're talking about almost a third of the grand, 33% increase in the grand list. We're only taking over a small section of road. The rest of the waterworks is going to be done from O&M with the people hooked on it. You know, I see this lowering the municipal tax rate, okay? So I cannot control the education tax rate. This is what towns do. You grow your town. And with that, it lowers everyone's municipal tax rate. So I kind of just differ on that. I mean, I see this as a way of lowering the tax rate. Anything else, Mike?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else?
Not seeing.
One last one there, Deb. We were supposed to have another meeting that started at 7 o'clock.
It's okay. This is a little more.
This is more important.
This is a little more important.
When I used to work write for the Mountain Times, I went to all the select board meetings and all the planning commission meetings. And probably 20 years ago, back when David Lewis was town manager, the U.S. Geological Survey came and said that a couple of guys, and they had said that they had done a detailed study of the water availability in the Killington Valley. And was the town interested in, I guess, buying into it or whatever? And nobody, I've never heard anything more about it. And I'm just wondering if there's a report that the town could get from the U.S. Geological Survey about the water. There's a tremendous amount of water up in the valley. You know, when you go hiking up by Cascade, there's the brook is always, it's a perpetual brook. It's always flowing, and the Roaring Brook is always roaring, and really it's never stopped.
So that was 20 years ago, and that was with Dave Lewis?
Yeah, Dave Lewis was town manager.
We're in 2023.
Yeah.
And most of the wells that are up in that area are rock, okay? They're not guaranteed, they're not that, people are, I think I just had somebody in the back say that his well that used to be running well is running lower or whatever.
Yeah.
He's up in that area, he said Rebecca Lane. This is down in the flats. This is in a, what type of bed?
Gravel pack.
Gravel pack, which is supposed to be the best type of source for a municipal-style water system. In the beginning of this project, about a year ago, when I was talking with my friend Steve Selbo, you know, hey, we have these 2 wells over here. It gets you 500 gallons a minute, and you got to guarantee us X amount. And I was like, well, we're going to do testing. We brought in a hydrologist, so if you want to go by a 20-year-old USDA geology, whatever, up there, I can give you something that was done in the last 8 months that says we have 1.5 million gallons of water per day, okay? And that's with drilling what, 3 wells? And
That's
there's
using the 2 original plus 1.
2 original plus 1. And there's other land there that is going to get transferred to us that we can drill more wells, which gets back to where Mike was coming from. First, we just need a yes vote on March 7th.
Yeah.
So we can start getting this other stuff done, and then we can talk about drilling a 4th well and then expanding it out like Chris was talking. Go
Well, I
ahead.
mean, the one thing to keep in mind, you know, when you talk about the future, one thing I want everybody to be aware of, not only are we talking about what this project is and what is approved for a water permit and what the system is going to be in the 750,000 gallon tank, in our pump station, we are making provisions for additional pumps and additional programs. We know that we can put at least 2 possibly 3 water storage tanks at the top. So we have expandability built into this, and it's all being pre-designed, it's already in the system, and it's being included in the process. We're running the spare pipes because this is the time to run them when you have it open. So we are putting in all future expansion possibilities in this program.
And we have the water quality there, too.
Yes,
And
we
the
have
water has been tested.
There are no PFOAs.
No PFOAs, everything else has been passed. It's, you know, this board in the town and the team that was put together with White and Burke, Wayne Elliott, VHB, different state agencies, I mean, we've been on them. So, you know, we're doing our job, and a lot of the times it's like Steve, Chris, and I don't know, some of us are putting in 30, 40 hours a week working on this project, getting emails from Stephanie and sending them back at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, I mean, this lady is working hard on this here, and it's amazing the team that we have together for it. So, is there any last I'll take 2 if there's anyone, because we have a meeting that was supposed to start at 7 o'clock to put the town ballot together. Scanning, nothing. Screen, nothing. I make a motion to adjourn at 7:45.
Public hearing.
Close the public hearing at 7:45.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
We'll open the second meeting at 7:48. Entertain a motion to accept the agenda as may be amended.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the resolution for the
Yeah, that
town
says,
hall purchase?
and it's
Yeah.
basically, if you wanna, do you wanna read it in, or?
I would like to make a motion to accept the town hall purchase necessity resolution as written. If anyone wants a copy, or if you want me to read it fast, necessity resolution, whereas the Killington Select Board has determined that the public interest and necessity of the town of Killington and its inhabitants require that real property be acquired, a municipal office be constructed on 2046 US Route 4 in Killington, the project. And whereas it is estimated that the cost of the project will be approximately $1,600,000, and whereas this amount is too great to be paid out of the ordinary annual income and revenue of the town of Killington, even after applying all grants in aid of the project. And whereas the Killington Select Board has determined that for the reasons set forth above, authority to finance the project through debt instruments for a term of more than 5 years is required. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Select Board of the town of Killington that the proposition of incurring debt through issuance of such debt instruments be submitted to the qualified votes of the town of Killington in the following form. Article 4, shall general obligation bonds or notes of the town of Killington an amount not to exceed $1,600,000, subject to reduction from available state and federal grants in aid and the application of available reserves, to be financed for a period not to exceed 10 years, be issued for the purpose of purchasing and renovating the property at 2046 US Route 4, which includes the post office, to become the new town hall. Be it further resolved that a vote on said proposition shall be conducted by Australian ballot at the annual town meeting to be held on Tuesday, March 7th, 2023, at the Killington Town Office, 2706 River Road, Killington, Vermont, at which meeting the polls will open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. And be it further resolved that the warning for the above-mentioned town meeting shall be published in the Mountain Times on February 16th, the 23rd, and March 2nd of 2023, and that the warning for such meeting shall be posted in 5 public places in the town of Killington, and the same shall be posted on the town website. Be it further resolved that the Select Board will hold a public informational hearing on the above stated proposition on Monday, March 6, 2023, I'm not going to read that again, at 7 p.m., at the Killington Public Safety Building, 800 Killington Road, Killington, Vermont. Be it further resolved that the warning for the 2023 annual town meeting is specifically approved for use in connection with the consideration on the above stated proposition of making public improvements and financing the same for a term not to exceed 10 years. The rest of the second page is dated at the Killington, Vermont. I guess it's January 30th of 2023. And then it asks for the 3 select board members to sign and receive for record this day of. I'm sure it's the same as today. And then the town clerk will sign it tomorrow. So I have a motion on the floor to accept this as read.
Second.
No reason to change it, all in favor?
Well, the only one is that
There's a typo.
2023 was written
There's a
twice.
typo.
Yeah.
So, okay.
There's a typo. that's
Yeah,
it.
so 2023, 2023.
Okay, all in
Sister
favor?
Christine would love me for repeating and reading like that.
Great.
Aye.
Say it again.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do you want all the signatures on one copy?
Yes, please.
Okay.
This pen's starting. Can you have your pen? His writing better than mine. You can stretch.
Off-duty firefighter Kuzi stopped it.
So the next up is what? This,
This is the actual town meeting warning.
Informational and town meeting warning.
okay, a motion to approve the informational and town meeting warning. You have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Do you want me to read this whole thing off
No,
again?
no, just, basically, I think all I would say is Article 1 is typically to affect town officers, elect town officers. Article 2, as always, is to choose the dates that we're gonna have taxes due. Article 3 is the budget, and the amount to be raised by taxes. Article 4 is the town hall that you heard in the resolution. And Article 5 is the TIF district, question for the voters.
You need us to sign it after we all approve it?
All in favor of the annual town meeting
This is a draft.
ballot?
Warning.
Informational and town
Sign in
meeting
warning.
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 Because this is the two, there's one on March 6th, and there's one, the March 6th is the informational meeting, and March 7th is the actual voting,
Yeah.
and that's what we're approving. Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
You can sign that.
So,
I'll say draft on
I'll
them.
get my pen back.
Yes.
we'll have to go into
No,
the,
we'll sign it first.
This
well, it
is a
says a
draft.
draft anyway,
This isn't the real one.
so we'll sign it now, and then that way we already signed it, Chris, and then we can sign the real one tomorrow.
Just keep throwing the pen back and
Sorry
forth.
about that, I didn't know that printed too well.
And then once you give me that, and then Steve signs.
Bring a better pen next time, Jim.
Yeah, usually you bring the pen. Oh, you want your pen back, Steve?
Well, I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna need it to sign.
Can we add a pen to the budget, please?
Yeah.
Well, if I bring my box, I can't carry it right now, I usually have
Yeah.
some.
Yeah,
Always
excuses,
Excuses, I know.
Do you have the first page? Yeah, it's right there. Okay.
Okay, so this is, we don't have it here, but since there are, can I go back to see who's here on the screen? I don't want to, whatever. So I think Connie has her hand up. Go ahead, Connie. You're muted.
She's got to
Yeah.
unmute herself.
Got it.
Thank
I
you.
have multiple questions, and most of it is regarding Article 4.
Okay?
Okay, and so you want me to read them all, and then you can answer them, or do you want us to do it want me to do it one by one?
Well, you have a question on Article 4, so let's start with that.
Okay, so my first question is, and that's where all my questions are targeted, towards Article 4. So the first question is, what triggered this, desire to move town hall to, the post office area?
So I'd like to say that I believe 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, we put a sustainable budget together. We presented it to the town voters. It had like a $10 million bond for a part of a road work or whatever, but it also laid out the next 10-year plan. And in there, in 2025,
Oh,
we,
right, you were gonna move town to town, yeah. You
in
were gonna move town.
2025, we were going to look for another piece of land to build a town hall on. And as we have seen, like with this building here, that when we bought, how many acres? 4 acres? And then putting a building on it was somewhere around
$5.2 million.
$5.2 million. And when the Koch family put the post office up for sale, which would be about the size of the building that we would need, the building is 1.2 million, the other 400,000 is for renovations inside, which I feel is a $4 million savings, and thought it was great. Plus, on top of it, we have a lease, triple net lease with the federal government for the post office, which will be paying the first year $72,000, and I think every few years there's an increase. So, after 15 years of collecting $72,000 a year, we pretty much got $1.2 million, $1.3 million back. I thought it was, and I brought it to the board, and the board thought it was a great idea, so we have it for Article 4.
Good job.
Thank you.
So, second question, or my next question is, at the town hall that we know and love on River Road, didn't we just build within the last, I don't know, couple of years, a facility that would secure all the documents that are sheltered there, that would make it fireproof and whatever proof? And if we did, because I know we did, I just can't name the correct dates and times, are we gonna have to repeat that construction to protect all the land deeds and everything else that's held in the
So you broke up there, but I got your question. So we did build a new vault in the town hall behind the clerk's office.
That's way back.
Yeah.
Way back, not just in the last couple of years. We will be building a new vault in the town hall. I believe we're looking to come in somewhere where the bike shop used to be a long time ago, a couple of years back. It's the perfect fit. The vault is nowhere near the $3.6 million that I just talked about that we're saving by buying this building instead of building another one. Then on top of it, we're talking about turning this property over to senior citizens, rec directors, and this is perfect here because I had to pull this out of here, but from the Sherburne/Killington historian, Sherburne Memorial Library, 2998 River Road, Killington, Vermont, 05751. Dear Select Board, on behalf of the Sherburne-Killington historians, I am requesting your consideration on the use of existing vault space at the current Killington Town offices, should it become available. The historians have recently been very active once again, are cataloging and digitizing our current collection. We meet and work out. So we're going to use that vault for the historians.
and the seniors, we'll vault up the seniors. Okay, thank you for that answer to your question. So we will be construction, at whatever cost it will take. And who will take care of, who will monitor programming and manage and do whatever it takes to keep the seniors and the teams happy and active in this new facility? Because I thought the seniors were quite happy with what they had at the library.
Well, I'm not going to speak for the seniors because I'm only turning 62 in February, but Jerry Russell, can you unmute yourself because I believe you lead the senior group or whatever?
2002 was when it was built.
And you're asking how we're going to use that new space?
And you thought, and I guess I think you're happy in the space that you're in. I'm not aware that you're in a space.
Well, we're actually not in a space. We do use the library. We call ourselves a partner with the library, so we meet there a lot. But I mean, I don't really know what the question is. We meet in all kinds of places. We meet at the Lookout. We meet at the library.
But
So my question is, so given that, will you now no longer visit the Lookout, but you'll have luncheons at the senior center? Or
Not at all. Not at all. That's not our
Not at
intent.
all. So what is your plan for because I will lower my voice. It's like speaking on a cell phone. What is your plan to use the the old town hall for the seniors that will be different than what you're using the library for?
Well, I think the library is growing with different things going on, and we're trying to make a set building for the seniors in that section, a section in that building, which means that they don't have to be calling the library and asking if they can book it or whatever. But at the same time, we're looking at putting in the rec department there. There is nobody leaving the building. The rec department will have their office there. The town will still be maintaining the building because it is a town building. So that's the plan. That's been the plan since day one, from 6 years ago. So I see Steve Feiner has his hand up, so I think he might have a comment on this. I don't know.
Okay, Steve, I'll concede to you, and then if you could concede back, I would appreciate that.
Well, we'll let you concede, and then we'll let Steve concede back to you.
No, well, let Steve go. Hi, Steve.
Hi, I just, two things. One's not, as far as what the seniors are gonna do, Connie, right now, the answer is we don't have a space. We didn't know we were gonna have a space. So we don't know, but now that there's a possible space, which is truly handicap accessible, it generates a lot of talk. And I think Jerry will say the same thing. Eventually there'll be put out a questionnaire or something to say to the public, what would you like to do there? And, it could be movies, it could be games, it could be trainings, it could be all kinds of things that we don't have a spot for right now. And, it adds a pretty cool spot.
But Steve, if I could interrupt, and I'm sorry to interrupt. The library is handicap accessible. The town hall is somewhat handicap accessible. There are stairs and there is an elevator. But the seniors do movies, and they do food, and they do a lot of things in the library.
So Connie, we have Article 4, listen Connie, we have Article 4 up for vote. The border, so we have it up for 4. And you know what? You could put in, when Steve Feiner puts out, what do you want to do in there? You can say, stick the seniors back to wherever they are. We don't want them here. And vote no. And vote no. Thank you. Do you have another question, Connie? Do you have another question? Do you have another question, Oil? I'm the vinegar.
Who's going to take care of the teams? Is one group going to get the upper level?
Connie, vote no, because that's where we're going here. Please, do me a favor. I already told you that the rec and the town will still be there. That's who will take care of it. There's not going to be anybody in the building if there's not the rec department there or somebody like Jerry running for the senior, running the place. But if you want to vote no, Connie, we know. I know you, you know me. Vote no. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Okay.
Because so
can you mute her? Can you mute her? Just mute her.
Such a good listener.
I know, thank you. Can you please mute? You can mute a person.
I will do that. There we go, Bob.
Bye-bye. Go ahead, Andy.
I'm sorry.
Tough act to follow.
I do have a couple of questions, but my first question is, will we have, before we get to vote on this, will it be a discussion about the positive things about this building and the negative things about this building that you want to purchase?
Well, we have our informational meeting.
That's, it'll be the night before? Okay, I thought it was gonna be here now.
It's informational.
Do you have positive or negatives?
Well, I have a couple on both sides.
Okay, so let's bring it on the night before.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any other questions?
That's it.
Okay. So now that we've heard from everybody in the audience, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 8:07.
You want to go back to Connie?
No.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.